Mesilas Yesharim focused us on the concept, the idea that this world is a battle place, and a person has to get ready for that battle. And that's such an important concept, and as I tried to delineate a little bit and elucidate last time, that it's something that we don't always see and realize and appreciate that people go through. We were trying to be marich, we tried to expand and speak about the idea a little bit more than we usually would. And I'm going to do that again, and now focus on the letter that I mentioned from the great Rav Hutner, Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner, the Baal Pachad Yitzchak, the Rosh Yeshivah of Yeshivas Rabbeinu Chaim Berlin in New York, and has branches in Eretz Yisrael, Gur Aryeh Kol, etc. And I want to share which is one of the greatest of his letters. It's one of the most well-known of his letters. Some of you probably know it. If you know it, it's certainly worth hearing again and again and again. And if you haven't heard it, it's a true gem. And just a word about who Rav Hutner was. Besides his great godless b'Torah, he was a great gadol, one of the Gedolei Ador, certainly. And anybody who learns Pachad Yitzchak sees his breadth and his depth in Torah and in Pnimius Torah and all different levels of Torah, together with being a regular Rosh Yeshiva who gave shiurim on the highest level in Halacha and Shmaitza. But besides that, he was arguably the greatest of his generation in building Talmidim, and building many different Talmidim of different sorts, from the totally dedicated Balabas, who was dedicated to the yeshiva and to work and made a lot of money, many of those, and to great Rosh Yeshivas and Poskim, etc. I don't want to go through the whole list, but I've noticed often when you even hear about, it's like sometimes more minor figures, they're less known in seminaries and yeshivas that had tremendous impact. Often it will be, or was at least, a Talmud of Rav Hutner. I've seen it many times, just glancing, oh, this one, wow, this person, not the known names, not the Revival Cohens and Jonathan David, or David Cohen, some of his known Talmidim. You know, my Rebbe, I must mention, Mendel Blachman was a Talmudist for 4 years also, so I feel direct catches to Rav Hutner. And to show the truth of that, in my own yeshiva, Shapell's, one of the major figures was Rav Mendel Farber, who so many Talmidim told me that he brought so much ruchnius and so much hecherkeit, the b'harnerkeit, elionut, to them, and showed them a different world, really. And that was a truth for anybody who knows the history of Shapell's. But that was a little bit of what Rav Hutner was. So I reread the letter. I read it many, many times. I've taught it, Baruch Hashem, many times. But I reread it to refamiliarize myself before this session, and also to figure out what not to say. I don't want to read the whole letter, but I'll tell you, it's so difficult to leave any part out, and therefore I don't think I'm going to, because I think every sentence here and every word here is gold, and it's worth hearing. And I'm filming this just 2 days after Rosh Chodesh. No, a day after Rosh Chodesh. Actually, this letter was written on Yom Beis Rosh Chodesh Iyar, and I made a mistake. I read Cheshvan there. I'm sorry. Leave that out. But it was written in, I think, 1963, Tafshin Chaf Gimel. And so here we go. Ahuvi Chavivi, Shalom Ubracha, my beloved. This is to a student. Now, the background was, this student obviously had written to the Rosh Yeshiva about difficulties he had and nefilot he had, and we don't know exactly what level, but definitely things that were going on, which he perceived himself, because of those nefilot, because of those struggles, because of his falling backwards and doing things that he wasn't proud of at all. So he was really writing like a letter, mitoch yeyush, kind of to Rav Hutner, despair and feeling himself totally far from the Beis Hashem, far from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, outside of what, for sure, certainly what his Rosh Yeshiva, his great Rosh Yeshiva, wanted to hear about him. Michtava higil yadi, I got your letter. Dvarcha higil levavi, and your words touch my heart. Dalacha chavivi, no, my beloved. Ki etzem michtavacha mitznaged, your letter goes against to everything that you said in it. I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that interesting lang, that the very letter you wrote is a stira, is a contradiction to what you wrote. What? Racholi etzlenu. It's a machla by us. When we think about the godless of our gedolim, we look at who they are at the end of their journey, at the end of their quest, at the end of their battle. We talk about their shleimus, we don't talk about the battle that they had. Haroshim al shel sichaten gdolim mitkablel kil yotzu mitachas yad yotzu b'komatam tzivyanam. As if the gdolim just appeared as they were in their shleimus form as malachim from above coming into this world. Hakol mesochim et palim u'merim alanes et ataro teloshen shabal Chavetz Chaim. So he takes the Chavetz Chaim as a example. Everybody talks about how great his Shmiras HaLashon was and how he effected a whole change, and we put up on a banner. That we talk about. Chavetz Chaim with shleimus never said any Lashon Hara. He wrote about Lashon Hara. He popularized Lashon Hara. Not speaking Lashon Hara. Avok miyodeya. Who knows? Min kol milchamot, the battles. V'amavakim, the struggles. Hamichsholim, the stumblings, v'nefilot, the fallings, v'nesigo lachor, and the retreats. Lachor shemotza Chavetz Chaim b'derech milchama shelo yimitzur hara. Mashal echad miyodei. This is just the mashal for what happens to all the gedolim. But dailan avan shekamotcha, a wise person like you should understand. The dunmin aprada lekal. From that detail, look at the klal, look at the general principle. Now what happens? Because we only look at the gedolim in their finished form, in their complete form, what happens? The totzah, it has a negative effect. Kishinar bal ruach, bal shifa, when you have a nar, when you have a younger person, bal shiva, someone has desires, bal tzisa, someone who's making movement, and he finds himself in those situations, michsholim, nefilos, yuridos, so he thinks he's not shasel b'beis Hashem. I think maybe that was the word that the Talmud had written. I'm not placed in God's house. I'm not planted in God's house. Seal. What does it mean to be Beis Hashem? Beis Hashem means that I'm b'shalvas hanefesh, everything's calm and cool, and I'm on control of everything, and my Yetzer Hara is totally in control, my Yetzer Tov is shining, and my face shines like a malach. And I'm sitting in B'ziv Shechina like I will be in Olam Haba, B'ezrat Hashem. Kederech HaTzadikim, then is V'Shechina, V'chulei. Shatrosem, Barosem, Zivas Gan Eden. Here we are. That's what it means. I'm trying to touch the next world in this world. Leidir Gisa, though Merugaz B'Sar HaYetzer, Shel Derech HaKosov, Shel Mesim Chavshi, and the Yetzer Hara doesn't have anything to do with him, I think he means to say. Avadolach HaChaviv, no Chavivi. And listen carefully, friends. Shesharish Nishmascha, the source of your soul. Hu lo hashalva shel Yetzer Tov. It's not the peace and calm of the Yetzer Tov. Eladafke milchamto shel hayetzer tov. It's for the battle of the Yetzer Tov. Michtava hayakar hanilhav, and your precious, heartfelt letter. Meid k'meidim kechen lochem nemanata b'tzvo shel Yetzer Tov. And I see you're a battler. You're in the battle of the Yetzer Tov. You're there. Ben glidomrim. In English we say, lose a battle and win the war. Lose a battle and win the war. You've suffered, you've fallen, you've struggled, and you will struggle. And you'll fall in battles. After all those battles, you will leave the battle with the crown of glory of success on your head. And the like treifa, the thing you grabbed will be between your teeth. Lose battles, but win wars. 7 will fall the righteous man instead. Haptipshim, the foolish choshvim. What does it mean to say? Even so, no, Sheva Yipol Tzaddik becomes because of the nefilas. That's why he's come. He's the person who is at the end of the day because of all his nefilas. Who mavikim shel tzaddik? He derech Hashem nefilas shelo. V'yard kol asher asvi nei tov mod. Kadosh Baruch Hu Parshas Bereishis. Look at everything he created. V'nei tov mod, and it was so good. Tov ze Yetzer Tov ma'od. What's tov mod? Yetzer Hara. Bereishis Rabba Tes Ahuvi. My beloved, I squeeze you to my heart, and I whisper into your ear. If you would have told me about your mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim, I finished this masechta, I helped at home, I was very responsible with my parents,
I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't waste any time. I shtayed the whole time. That would have been a good letter. You read this and it feels a very good letter. Your ruach is churning to come out a gadol, the great person. Please don't imagine that gedolim with their yetzer tov mamish is one. He is just a shtick oneness with his yetzer tov. That's all he is. This is how you have to think of the gedolim: battlers, lochmim, special forces, day after day in the trenches. Verdun, some. That's how you say it. Vietnam. I'm adding that. He didn't say that. In calling it tias v'shivlos v'nemuchos, with shivlos v'nemuchos and low things that they had to deal with. Ubizman she'incha margish b'kirbecha asar hayetzer, when you feel the yetzer hara is overwhelming you. Now you're close with them. Obviously, that you're going to battle, right? I mean, I give into it, right? But you're battling. You're more similar to the Gedolim when you're battling and than when you're sitting in peace. Incredible. Where your greatest falls are. Wow, that's very interesting. That needs its own Torah explanation. I think that idea is rooted in Reb Tzadok and probably earlier sources. But specifically, where your worst in the feelings are, that's where your greatest kli could be for the honor of God. You don't want to steal my, I guess how he's writing, because I want you to know how bad I am, etc. So you don't want to steal my perception of you. Right? And you're not so bad. I don't want to hear. Don't talk about your Sheva Pam, how bad you are. Right? I'll tell you what I see in you in the Charvizman, during the wintersman. Right? He wrote this letter in ER, as I mistakenly said at the beginning that it was Cheshvan, it was ER. Right? ER is at the end of the winter, and then Nisan, and then ER. So he says, look what happened in the last month. You learn Niskei Mammon, complex halachas. You chazard a few times in Masechta, you learn. Lo tachar, don't deny it. That's the fact you have to look at. How much I've accomplished. That's what you have to look at. And look what you've accomplished. I want to stop and emphasize this for a second. I wasn't planning on emphasizing this. This is such an important thing, that it's not just chizuk, friends. He's saying, look, you've accomplished things in your life. The way that we often look when we fall, and when we fall in the battles, that's what we focus on. We can have a whole day of looking at doing many, many mitzvahs, but we remember the negative thing we did. We have to deal with the negative thing. We'll see, the Rosh Yeshivah will mention that. But that can't dominate us. But look at all the good you did. Look at how much good is in you. Look at the accomplishments you had. Look how many times you were nice to your wife. Look how many times you were mechaber your husband. Look how many times you didn't see something you weren't supposed to see. Look how many times you did keep it aveim. But we focus on the negative all the time, and negative on ourselves, negative in others, negative in situations. That's just unfortunately the situation of man, right? So the Rosh Yeshivah is saying here is that look at what you accomplished, and it was serious accomplishments, etc. Right? I remember how much desire I once had. But now my hope is lost. How can you say such things against a living reality? Haven't you gone great levels since you've come into the Beis Medrash? You're not such a chutzpan like that, to say such chutzpahdik untruths. What's wrong with you? You find the Yitzhar is working on you? You think in your foolishness and your naivete of the Yetzer Hara's army, so I'm lost. I'm nothing. I'm a zero. I'm an efes. Shum davar. Time to do something else. Dvarcha pashin mivim legei guchet. They're laughable. It's laughable what you're saying. I feel bad for you. That sevel, the fact that you're suffering with your Yetzer Hara and trying to get over it, etc. That's the rechem. That is the womb of greatness. Listen carefully. We're going to go back to this. I saw your face when you were involved in halacha. I saw how you were listening to my shiurim. I saw Belel Shvishal Pesach. Rav Hutner is well known. Made a very big deal out of Yom Tovim. Of course, Sukkot and Pesach, etc. The Talmidim were with him during those times, often, and I think that's what he's referring to. And Shvishal Pesach, the Rashi was looking and he saw this. I saw how you were. I saw your godless. I saw your tshuka for ruknis. I saw your Yetzer Tov. Hosios hacharutos al panecha b'shasanal hein osishal sovakav lavo. That your face says he will get through the battle. This guy's a champion. He's going to get there. Ein shvila kav mit patel derech mishor. The way to covet doesn't mean covet getting aliyah. It means the true coveting, covet al Torah. The true is not a straight path. Shvila kavet over mistaveb kinachash alei derech shvishon alei orach. It's like the way a snake moves. Arso shel nachash b'kirbacha. You have the venom of nachash inside you. Hu yishavacheka v'atat tishavena rosh. You're going to smash his head, like the pasuk says in Bereshis. Don't worry about the arrows inside of you. You'll break him. Matzati l'nachon latzich l'dvarim halo b'ksav. That is a very, very important part. Matzati l'nachon latzich l'dvarim halo b'ksav. I dafka wrote this to you, my dear one. Hakavana hi l'altei lecha yichol l'zdakek l'amidei pam b'pam. Because I want you to be able to read it and to look at it and to go over it, to get chizik from it, and to get understanding and chachma from it. I'm adding. Move on me'elav shemipad ze lo hayta kavana el hakava klali. I'm talking in general here. This is an important line. Ubenogel nekudas pratios, but specifically nekudas b'zeh yafa kolcha shel adibur hachai mipanim alpanim. We have to speak about some things. Now, I want to just say over here, it's a very, very important thing, because I think some people, and sometimes today, it's just like chizik. I'm not trying to teach you chizik, friends. I'm trying to show you the great words of which I'm sure everybody agrees how moving this letter is, and why we spent all this time on in the whole session of our Mesilas Yesharim, which is really, this is what it's all about. But he's not saying ignore your, right? I think sometimes the chizik talk today is just you go and you're okay. You have to deal with your chesronas, right? I think that's what he's referring to over here. The kudas pratios, there are specific parts that we're going to talk about panim o panim. I think that's I understand what he means to say. He's not ignoring. It's not just I did this and I did this about lashon hara. Oh, don't worry, you're going to be gavaldig. Let's keep speaking lashon hara. No. That there's another religion that believes that. That's not our religion, right? We don't like that religion, right? I mean, whatever. Yeah, we're Jewish. We want to fix ourselves. We have to fix ourselves. I'm speaking to myself. You can't. But the grand chizik of seeing the sofa derech lavo and all that the Yeshiva said, but together with that, the nekudas pratius, that's the kava klali, is we're going to get through things if you want to try and you're serious, etc. But you have to deal with the nekudas pratius. And the Yeshiva finishes, Atu hashatu beveis Hashem. You thought you weren't. You are the one who's planted in the Beis Hashem, my dear one. And then he signs off, Bishtatfut besivlecha, in partnership in your sevel and your difficulty, b'bitachon b'nitzchoncha, in surety of your success, b'tfila latzlachasecha, and in prayer for your hatzlacha. Yitzchak Hudner. Nichta b'tzido. P.S. Achshav hincha mevin et hamishpat rishon shel michtav. Now you understood what I said at the beginning. Ki etzem michtavcha min nagedu l'chol tiurim hanimsambo. Right, all the words used to describe yourself exactly the opposite. Okay, so I think it speaks for itself, and it's incredible. Just to share a few maybe takeaways, humbly share a few takeaways. Something this stands on its own, and I'm so happy I could share it. I didn't say which one it is. It's Kuf Kaf Ches 128. One more than the years of Sari Min, right? Sorry, it's 127. So 128, Kuf Ches, and Igeres Ksavim of the Baal Pakad Yitzchak. Great book to have, and this is another many other central letters here. Of course, the letters in Halacha, as we said. Something on the bucket list. I want to go through all of it one day, but I'm not sure when we're going to do that. Okay, so I just want to share for if any Rebbeim are listening or you're hearing this, and Chaz myself, you see what it means to be a Rebbe here. Just such a chizik. How Rav Hutner was, first off, that he spent all the time writing this letter, that he was following this Talmud,
that he was seeing him, seeing his growth, dealing with him. And then this letter was only just part of it. And then there was going to be the follow-up discussions with him. And that's what they say Rav Hutner had an unbelievable knowledge of his Talmidim. But that's, it seems to me that's the work of Chinuch. And for Talmidim, those who are looking for relationships with the Rebbe, you see how important it is to be open. Imagine this Talmud hadn't been open with Rav Hutner. What would happen? So he wouldn't have grown. He would have never gotten this letter, which I'm sure caused him incredible chizuk, and we wouldn't have this letter, right? He was, I don't want to tell the Rosh Yeshivah my problems, my chesronos, what's he going to think about me, etc. So Baruch Hashem, this young man, then a young man, 60 odd years ago, 62 years ago, was open with his Rosh Yeshiva, and if you have good rabbis, that's the way to be, is to be open with them. People can't help you if you aren't open and sharing that. The Rav of your community does not know what's up with your family if you're not including him. So generally, Chashav Rabbanim care about their people, and they're there to help, but they can't help if they don't know. And we wouldn't have it, and now Baruch Hashem, we have it, this letter. And finally, you're curious. I'm very curious. Who was this person? I wonder if anybody knows. I mean, probably the family knows, but maybe no. But anybody knows, they could send it over. Okay, I look forward to continuing with the next session next time, and it's something really to review in Chazer. I was so happy that I was able to review it myself. Happy I could share with everybody, and we should continue to learn from our great people, and we should continue to learn the right things from our great people, and remember that their way of greatness was not simple.